Tyler Matthews believed he was too smart to be caught, but the deleted recording hidden inside his own phone was about to expose the monster behind his perfect student image. Before watching this intense courtroom case review, make sure you subscribe to the channel first, comment below where you're watching from, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Now let's begin. In 15-year-old Tyler Matthews' mind, he was untouchable. He believed he could manipulate anyone, talk his way out of anything, and even escape the consequences of murder. That dangerous delusion pushed him to do the unthinkable. Laugh directly at Judge Judy-style during his own murder trial, while the body of his 16-year-old girlfriend, Emma Rodriguez, lay cold in the ground. Tyler sat in court with an arrogant smirk on his face, acting as if the entire proceeding was entertainment. He looked less like a teenager facing justice and more like someone watching a comedy show. But prosecutors had something waiting for him that would destroy his innocent act completely. Hid deep inside the deleted files on Tyler's phone was a recording no one expected to find. It was chilling, calculated, and powerful enough to change everything people thought they understood about this case. This was not simply a relationship that went wrong. It was not a sudden teenage argument that became violent. This case was about a predator who had allegedly planned Emma's death for weeks, documenting his control over her and recording moments so disturbing that even experienced homicide detectives struggled to process them. Tyler believed his boyish face, strong grades, and clean reputation made him invisible to suspicion. He thought his performance as the grieving boyfriend had fooled everyone, from Emma's devastated parents to the officers who first questioned him. But Tyler's need to prove his own superiority created the very evidence that would bring him down. That hidden recording was not just proof of planning. It revealed something far darker. Tyler Matthews had not merely killed Emma. He had studied her like an experiment, observing her fears, testing her emotional limits, and recording her suffering for his own twisted satisfaction. When the evidence finally appeared in court, Tyler's laughter would stop, and everyone would see what Emma saw in her final moments. Not a boyfriend, but a monster wearing the mask of first love. The story began in the quiet suburban town of Millbrook, just as autumn leaves were turning gold. Emma Rodriguez first caught Tyler's attention in sophomore chemistry class. She was the kind of girl who seemed to make everything look easy. Her dark hair was always neat. Her smile was warm, and she often helped classmates who struggled with assignments. Emma was the daughter every parent would be proud of. She earned straight A's, volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends, and still found time to babysit her younger cousins. Her bedroom walls were filled with college letters and reminders of the future she was working toward. She dreamed of becoming a veterinarian, building a life beyond her small town, and making her family proud. Her parents, Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, had immigrated from Mexico when Emma was only 3 years old. They worked multiple jobs to give their daughter a better future. To them, Emma represented every sacrifice they had ever made. Every evening, she sat at the kitchen table with her mother, talking about school while helping prepare dinner. Their conversations moved between English and Spanish, full of laughter, school stories, and family warmth. Emma was the bright center of their home. When Tyler Matthews entered Emma's life during junior year, the Rodriguez family welcomed him. At first, he seemed like the perfect first serious boyfriend. He was polite, respectful, and charming. He called Emma's parents Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, complimented Maria's cooking, and asked Carlos about his work. Tyler had sandy brown hair, an easy smile, and the kind of clean appearance that made adults trust him quickly. He was in the National Honor Society, played varsity soccer, and had already been accepted to several universities with partial scholarships. To outsiders, Tyler and Emma looked like the perfect high school couple. They held hands in the halls, ate lunch together, went on dates, and filled social media with smiling photos. Tyler brought her flowers, wrote sweet notes, and always told her how beautiful she looked. Teachers said they seemed well matched. Other students joked that they would probably get married one day. But behind the photos and public affection, something different was quietly forming. It began in small ways, subtle enough that Emma did not recognize it as control. Tyler started asking detailed questions about where she was, who she was with, and when she would be home. He said he was worried about her safety and wanted her to text him whenever she arrived somewhere. Emma thought it was sweet. She believed his constant attention proved how much he cared. Then he began suggesting she spend less time with her girlfriends. He told her their relationship mattered more than people who did not understand their connection. Emma saw it as romance, not control. Slowly, she started turning down invitations, avoiding group activities, and becoming defensive whenever anyone questioned Tyler's behavior. Her best friend, Sarah Chen, noticed Emma's phone buzzing constantly. Emma would stop everything to answer Tyler, and if she missed a call for even a few minutes, panic would cross her face. Emma's parents noticed changes too. She spent less time talking with her mother and rushed to her room to FaceTime Tyler. She became irritated when family plans conflicted with him. The clearest warning came during Emma's 17th birthday party. Tyler gave her an expensive necklace, and she put it on happily. But all evening, he watched her conversations closely. When Emma's cousin Miguel talked with her about her future, Tyler's jaw tightened. Later, Sarah saw him pull Emma aside, gripping her arm too firmly as he whispered something that made her smile disappear, and tears fill her eyes. The perfect couple image was cracking, but Tyler knew how to perform in public. He stayed charming enough to protect his reputation while tightening his control in private. He understood that isolation had to happen slowly, so he acted like the loving boyfriend who simply could not stand being away from her. While quietly cutting Emma off from anyone who might help her escape, the breaking point came on a cold Thursday evening in February, when Emma Rodriguez finally found the courage to say the words Tyler never wanted to hear. "I think we need to take a break." She had rehearsed that sentence for weeks, standing in front of her mirror and trying to prepare herself for his reaction. Emma already knew Tyler would not accept it calmly. She expected tears, pressure, guilt, and the same manipulative arguments he had used before whenever she wanted space. But by then, she understood something painful. The relationship that once felt like love had become a prison. They were sitting in Tyler's car behind the old movie theater in an empty parking lot he had chosen because it was away from parents, friends, and anyone who might see the truth about him. Emma had prepared herself for pleading and emotional pressure. What she had not prepared for was the cold rage that came over Tyler's face. In Tyler's mind, Emma was not ending a relationship. She was challenging his control. He had spent months shaping her into someone who answered to him, depended on his approval, and felt guilty for wanting independence. Now she was trying to take back her life, and Tyler saw that as betrayal. The violence that followed was not chaotic or accidental. It was controlled, deliberate, and terrifyingly calm. The same hands that had once held Emma gently became weapons. Tyler's grip closed around her throat with the precision of someone who had imagined that moment before. As Emma struggled, Tyler did not feel remorse. He felt satisfaction. To him, this was the final act of control over the girl he believed belonged to him. Emma Rodriguez, the girl who dreamed of veterinary school and helping animals, died alone in a car with the boy she had trusted. Her final moments were not filled with love. They were filled with the horrifying realization that she had never truly known Tyler Matthews at all. The cover-up began immediately, revealing just how calculated Tyler really was. He positioned Emma's body in the passenger seat, took her phone, and started creating a digital lie. He sent messages from Emma's phone to her parents, claiming she was staying overnight at Sarah's house to work on a project. Then he called Sarah from Emma's phone and, in a carefully mimicked distressed voice, claimed Emma needed space because of family problems. Tyler knew he had only a small window before people started asking questions. He used that time to drive 20 miles outside town and leave Emma's body in a remote wooded area. The next morning, he arrived at the Rodriguez home, pretending to be the worried boyfriend. He sat in their kitchen, accepted coffee from Maria with steady hands, and acted increasingly concerned as the hours passed without word from Emma. He joined search parties. He helped hand out missing person flyers. He comforted Maria Rodriguez as she cried, and all the while he knew exactly where Emma was. 3 days later, a jogger's dog led police to Emma's body. The scene was heartbreaking. Emma was still wearing the clothes she died in, her dreams buried with her in the cold February ground. The medical examiner confirmed she had been strangled, the life forced out of her by someone strong enough and determined enough to keep pressure until she stopped fighting. Detective Sarah Kim, a 15-year veteran of the county sheriff's department, had seen many homicide scenes, but this one felt different. Emma's body had been positioned carefully, almost as if the killer wanted her to look peaceful. This did not seem like a panicked disposal after a crime of passion. It felt planned, personal, and disturbingly controlled. The lack of defensive wounds also stood out. It suggested Emma trusted her attacker and did not understand the danger until it was too late. When news of Emma's death spread through Millbrook, the entire town was shaken. This was a quiet place where the biggest crimes were usually school vandalism or teenagers drinking in the woods. People could not understand how a bright, kind girl who babysat children and helped elderly neighbors could become the victim of such violence. Tyler's performance during this period looked almost perfect. He attended Emma's vigil, cried publicly, spoke about their future, and described her as his soulmate. He begged anyone with information to come forward. To most people, Tyler looked like a devastated boyfriend destroyed by the loss of his first love. But Detective Kim saw something wrong from the beginning. Emma's parents were lost in raw grief, barely able to speak. Tyler's sadness felt different, rehearsed, controlled, and strangely aware of the cameras around him. He cried at the right moments and said the right words. But his emotions seemed to switch on and off too easily. When Kim asked Tyler to explain his last conversation with Emma, his answer sounded too perfect. As if he had practiced it, then phone records began breaking his story apart. Text messages between Tyler and Emma revealed a pattern of control and manipulation. The most damning message came from Emma to Sarah, sent hours before her death. She planned to break up with Tyler that night, and she was scared of how he would react. When confronted with that evidence, Tyler's mask cracked. He did not respond like an innocent boyfriend in shock. He became irritated. 1 week after Emma's body was found, Detective Kim arrested Tyler in his first period calculus class. As officers led him through the school, he did not look confused or ashamed. He looked angry, as if everyone else was overreacting to what he saw as an inconvenience. In the interrogation room, the polite honor student disappeared. Tyler leaned back, smirked, and treated the entire process like a mental game. Then came the confession. He did not confess out of guilt. He confessed because he wanted Detective Kim to understand how carefully he had planned everything. He described Emma not like a person, but like a target. He explained how he studied her routines, chose the location, and prepared for different outcomes. Most chilling of all, Tyler did not understand why anyone was upset. In his mind, Emma had broken the rules by trying to leave him. Her death to him was simply the consequence of disobedience. Tyler's confession became more disturbing the longer he talked. He did not speak about Emma like she was a girl he had once loved. He spoke about her like she was something he had owned, shaped, and then punished when she refused to obey. In his mind, Emma's decision to end the relationship was not a personal choice. It was an act of betrayal against his authority. When Detective Kim asked if he felt remorse for killing someone who had cared about him, Tyler laughed coldly. He said Emma had not truly loved him. He called her ungrateful and selfish. Then he claimed her death had almost been a mercy because she was incapable of understanding what real love meant. That answer revealed the truth about him. Tyler's version of love was ownership. His idea of devotion was control. And in his twisted mind, Emma's murder was not a crime. It was a correction. a final way to restore the power he believed she had taken from him. The most chilling part of the interrogation came when Tyler began describing the weeks before Emma's death. He spoke with pride about isolating her from friends and family. He explained how he made her believe his jealousy was love, how he turned his possessiveness into proof that he cared, and how he slowly broke down her confidence until she depended on his approval. Tyler had been conducting a psychological campaign against Emma long before he killed her. He had studied how she reacted. He had learned what made her apologize. He had tested which words made her feel guilty. He knew how to make her question herself, how to make her afraid of disappointing him, and how to make her feel trapped while still calling it love. The murder was not the beginning of Tyler's violence. It was the final move in a game he had been playing for months. While Tyler sat in jail, still convinced that he had outsmarted everyone, forensic investigators began digging through his digital life. They searched his phone, messages, cloud backups, deleted folders, and hidden files. What they discovered shattered any chance his defense had of presenting him as a confused teenager who lost control. Inside the deleted files of Tyler's smartphone, investigators found his secret obsession. Dozens of recordings he had made of Emma during their relationship. These were not innocent videos of a young couple. They were not memories, jokes, or ordinary moments from a high school romance. They were evidence of a predator documenting his victim's emotional collapse. The recordings showed Emma crying, apologizing, and trying to explain herself while Tyler calmly pushed her further. In some clips, his voice could be heard analyzing her reactions, almost like he was studying the results of an experiment. He commented on her fear. He described her progress. He recorded her breaking down as if it were proof of his success. The evidence was devastating. It proved that Tyler had not simply become controlling by accident. He had enjoyed it. He had monitored Emma's emotional pain, saved it, and hidden it away like a trophy. When prosecutors prepared for trial, those recordings became the heart of their case. They already had Emma's final text to Sarah. They had Tyler's confession. They had phone records and timeline problems. But the recordings showed the jury something no summary could fully explain. They showed Tyler's mind. The defining moment of the trial came when the prosecution played those secret recordings in court. The jury listened in horror as Tyler's voice filled the room, coldly describing Emma's emotional breakdown while she cried in the background. Emma's parents sat frozen, forced to hear their daughter's pain captured by the boy who would later kill her. Tyler, sitting at the defense table, did not look ashamed. He looked amused. When the prosecutor paused the audio and asked whether the defense had any objections, Tyler suddenly burst into laughter. Then he pointed toward the judge and said, "This is better than Judge Judy." That outburst destroyed any remaining illusion of remorse. The courtroom went silent. The jury saw exactly who he was. This was not a broken teenager drowning in guilt. This was someone who found entertainment in his victim's suffering and even in his own murder trial. From that point forward, the defense had almost nothing left to protect him with. His lawyer tried to argue immaturity, emotional confusion, and pressure during interrogation, but Tyler's own behavior kept destroying those arguments. The recordings showed calculation. His confession showed planning. Emma's final message showed fear. And his laughter in court showed the complete absence of human empathy. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. When they returned, Tyler tried to keep his face calm, but the confidence was already slipping. For the first time since his arrest, he looked unsure. The foreman stood and read the verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. Tyler's smug expression vanished. The boy who believed himself untouchable finally realized that his own arrogance had become part of the evidence against him. When he was given a chance to speak before sentencing, Tyler made one final attempt to control the story. He stood and claimed that Emma had been lucky to have someone like him. He said he had cared enough to teach her respect and loyalty. Judge Patricia Henley had heard enough. With 30 years on the bench behind her, her voice cut through the room like steel. She told Tyler that he had not loved Emma Rodriguez. He had consumed her. He had recorded her suffering like entertainment and had shown the court that he was incapable of real empathy. Then she sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the sentence landed, Tyler's carefully built mask finally collapsed. For the first time, the courtroom saw real fear on his face, not regret, not sorrow for Emma, not understanding of what he had taken from the Rodriguez family. Just fear for himself. The teenager who had believed he could charm his way out of murder suddenly understood that no performance could save him now. His grades could not help him. His clean image could not protect him. His rehearsed grief meant nothing. The recordings, the confession, and his own courtroom arrogance had destroyed every path to mercy. Then Tyler began to unravel. He shouted that everyone was too stupid to understand him. He claimed the jury did not appreciate his intelligence. He screamed that Emma should have been grateful for his attention, that he had made her special, and that without him she was nothing. The bailiffs moved quickly, taking him by the arms as he fought against them. His final words echoed through the courtroom as they dragged him toward the doors. "I made her special. Without me, she was nothing." Then the doors closed behind him. The courtroom remained silent for several seconds. For Emma's family, the moment was not a celebration. It was the end of a nightmare, but not the end of their grief. Maria and Carlos Rodriguez finally had justice, but justice could not bring Emma back to the kitchen table. It could not restore the future she had planned, the veterinary school she dreamed of, or the life Tyler had stolen from her. Still, they had the truth. Tyler was no longer the perfect boyfriend in the eyes of the town. He was no longer the grieving teenager who had fooled classmates, teachers, and neighbors. The trial had exposed him completely. The world now knew that behind his charm was a controlling predator who confused possession with love. Outside the courthouse, Maria Rodriguez stood before reporters and spoke about her daughter. She did not want Emma remembered only as a victim. She described her as a beloved girl with dreams, kindness, and a future that should have stretched far beyond high school. Maria spoke about how Emma loved animals, how she wanted to become a veterinarian, how she helped others without needing attention, and how deeply she was loved by her family. Her voice broke, but she kept going. She said this case showed how dangerous controlling behavior can become when people ignore the warning signs. Tyler had hidden behind the image of romantic devotion, but his love had never been love. It was ownership. It was obsession. It was control. The case became a painful warning for parents and teenagers everywhere. Abuse does not always begin with violence. Sometimes it starts with constant messages, with jealousy presented as care, with demands to know where someone is, with pressure to leave friends behind, with guilt when someone wants space, with a relationship that looks sweet in public but feels suffocating in private. Emma's story forced people to look again at the signs they often dismiss as normal teenage drama. Detective Sarah Kim later said that Tyler's case changed the way her department talked about relationship violence. Tyler had not looked dangerous to adults. He was polite, successful, charming, and respected. That image helped him hide what he was doing to Emma behind closed doors. That was what made him so dangerous. He did not look like a monster. He looked like the perfect boyfriend. In the weeks after the trial, Millbrook High School held a memorial for Emma. Students filled the auditorium wearing purple ribbons in her honor. Teachers talked about her kindness. Friends shared memories of her laughter, her love for animals, and her habit of helping classmates without making them feel embarrassed. Sarah Chen, Emma's best friend, stood at the podium and read the final message Emma had sent her. "I'm going to break up with Tyler tonight. I'm scared of how he'll react, but I can't live like this anymore." The room went silent. Then Sarah looked out at the students and said, "If someone makes you afraid to leave, that is not love." Her words became one of the strongest messages of the entire case. After the memorial, Emma's parents announced the creation of the Emma Rodriguez Foundation. Its mission was to teach teenagers, parents, and schools about emotional abuse, coercive control, and the warning signs of dangerous relationships. They wanted Emma's name to stand for more than tragedy. They wanted her story to protect other young people. The foundation began working with local schools, offering workshops about controlling behavior and unhealthy relationships. Students were taught that jealousy is not proof of love, that isolation is a warning sign, and that fear should never be part of romance. The programs explained how emotional manipulation can slowly become dangerous, especially when it is ignored because the relationship looks perfect from the outside. Emma's life had been stolen, but her story began saving others. Maria and Carlos knew that nothing could make the loss fair. Nothing could bring back their daughter. But by telling the truth, they made sure Tyler did not get the final word. The trial ended with Tyler Matthews locked away for life, but Emma Rodriguez's story did not end when the courtroom doors closed. For Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, justice was important, but it could never replace their daughter. They still had to return to a house where Emma's voice was gone. Her room still held the pieces of the future she had planned: school papers, college letters, photos with friends, and reminders of the girl who had dreamed of becoming a veterinarian. No verdict could bring that future back. But the truth mattered. For weeks, Tyler had tried to control the story. He had pretended to be the grieving boyfriend. He had stood beside Emma's parents while knowing he was the one who had taken her life. He had cried at vigils, spoken to cameras, and acted like he was broken by the loss of the girl he had murdered. Now the mask was gone. The evidence had shown exactly who he was. The phone records, Emma's final message, his confession, and the deleted recordings all revealed a pattern of control that had been hidden behind charm. Tyler had not loved Emma. He had treated her like property, and when she tried to leave, he punished her for wanting freedom. That was the message Maria wanted people to understand. Standing outside the courthouse, she spoke about Emma not as a headline, not as evidence, and not only as a victim. She spoke about her daughter as a real person with dreams, kindness, and a future that had been stolen. Emma loved animals. She helped classmates. She made her family laugh. She had plans that reached far beyond Millbrook. Then Maria said the words that would stay with everyone who heard them: "Love should never feel like ownership." That sentence became the heart of Emma's story because Tyler had called his behavior love, but it was never love. Real love does not isolate someone from friends. It does not demand constant updates. It does not turn jealousy into proof of devotion. It does not make someone afraid to answer late, afraid to disagree, or afraid to leave. What Tyler gave Emma was not love. It was control. And control, when ignored, can become deadly. After the sentencing, Millbrook began changing the way it talked about teenage relationships. Parents started asking different questions. Teachers paid closer attention when students suddenly withdrew from friends or became anxious about their phones. Teenagers began speaking more openly about jealousy, pressure, and emotional manipulation. Emma's final text to Sarah became one of the most painful warnings of the entire case. She had been scared to break up with Tyler. She knew something was wrong. She wanted out. And that fear should have been enough for someone to step in sooner. Sarah Chen carried that lesson with her. At school assemblies and memorial events, she told other students not to ignore the signs. If a friend suddenly stops hanging out, always seems nervous, or feels guilty for having a life outside their relationship, that is not normal romance. That is a warning. The Emma Rodriguez Foundation became the family's way of turning pain into protection. Maria and Carlos worked with schools to teach teenagers about coercive control, emotional abuse, and the early signs of dangerous relationships. The foundation's message was clear. Abuse does not always begin with bruises. Sometimes it begins with constant checking, isolation, jealousy, and fear disguised as love. Detective Sarah Kim also used the case to warn parents and investigators that dangerous people do not always look dangerous. Tyler had good grades. He played sports. He was polite to adults. He looked like the kind of boy parents trusted. That image helped him hide. And that was what made him so dangerous. Emma's case forced the community to understand that a perfect public image can cover a terrifying private reality. Tyler's charm had fooled teachers, classmates, and even Emma's family at first. But Emma had seen the truth behind closed doors, and by the time she tried to escape it, Tyler's need for control had already become lethal. In the end, Tyler's own arrogance destroyed him. He recorded Emma's suffering because he believed it proved his power. Instead, those recordings proved his guilt. He laughed in court because he thought the trial was beneath him. Instead, that laughter showed the jury his complete lack of remorse. He believed Emma was nothing without him. But after his conviction, Emma's name became stronger than his ever would be. Her story became a warning to teenagers who feel trapped, a reminder to parents to listen closely, a lesson for schools to teach that love should never come with fear, and a call for friends to speak up when someone they care about begins disappearing inside a controlling relationship. Tyler Matthews will spend his life in prison, but Emma Rodriguez's legacy will live outside that cell. It will live in every student who recognizes a warning sign earlier, in every friend who asks one more question, in every parent who listens instead of dismissing controlling behavior as teenage drama, in every young person who learns that leaving a relationship should never be dangerous. Emma deserved a future full of animals she would save, people she would help, and family dinners filled with laughter. Tyler stole that future, but he did not get to erase her because Emma's family refused to let her story end with him. They told the truth. They turned grief into action. And they made sure the world remembered Emma not as the girl Tyler controlled, but as the girl whose story helped others understand that love is never ownership.